disruption allows for any seed to be planted. When you start to garden in the spring, you till the soil, you disturb all the soil that was overwintering. And I think we're in that phase where we're raking everything up so that the seeds we can plant grow in a new and vital and healthy way. But often we'll feel very different when we're in that frequency for ourselves. So anything that we're coming to, any challenge, any opportunity, any relationship, any conflict coming from that space changes it. It alchemizes it. It broadcasts a different frequency, and it allows us to remember, hey, I'm a soul living through this. And like you said, I'm the co-creator of this. I'm in the hologram. I can affect it. I can change it. And anytime things press in on you, anytime things look too frightening, too strange, too wonky in the world, go to that space in your heart. And if you were in that space looking out, how would you feel?
Heather Mays, welcome on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
Thank you so much, Emilio. It's such a joy to be here. Today, I'm so excited to talk to you. That is the top of my list. But if I extend that out just a little bit on the time-space continuum, what I am absolutely delighted and passionate and excited about is connecting with so many souls around the world through the vehicle of the art that I do. And not just to touch and connect with individuals one-on-one, but what I'm able to witness through thousands of these sacred geometry portraits is, I feel like I have a real-time view of our evolution, a real-time view of our progress through these spiritual gates that we're all walking through, because I see so many beautiful, empowered individuals dropping into self, doing the inner work, and then blissfully called to service to others. And time again, that is the story that I hear. How can I show up? How can I help? How can I connect more, do more, be more? And it is such a beautiful thing to witness. And I feel so lucky. And it's something I will never get tired of doing and witnessing with other people.
This art that you do, you call the energetic signature portraits, where you basically get someone's name and their location, and then you paint this incredible geometric sacred pattern that is sort of like the QR for their soul. And you've also said that it's a new way to recognize all that a soul is in its expansion beyond words. So as you just mentioned, that you're seeing how these portraits are indicating the evolution of our soul. What are you seeing there in specific in terms of the evolution of soul?
What I am able to witness time and time again with people is their journey. So when I meet with someone to talk about their art, we break down different elements. And when I was guided to start doing this art, it was, like you said, as a new way of identification of self. Our names are so limiting. Our bodies are so limiting. Our jobs, our professions, the labels we put on ourselves are so limiting. And we're so much more than all of that. This is a way for us to feel into our stories as the past, the present, and the future. And when we zoom in and talk about the art with someone, we look at the very core of who they are, and we will see the story of them connecting in with their intuition, their story of connecting in to healing their own trauma. We will see their journey through life, sometimes reflected in pieces that look more pointed, more spiky. That's someone who has overcome some obstacles in their life. We will see people who maybe passed up the obstacles, or we'll see repeating patterns where the same things come back for healing, inviting them to go deeper and broader with what it is that they're looking at. The colors will reflect things often that they pull in from the world and push out to the world. So they may be transmuters of anger, of fear, and changing that through their own alchemy of being into love and service and divinity. And all of that even though we're looking at individual elements of someone's journey, it's kind of that instant connection where someone can say that feels like me. We're seeing people shift more into the awareness of connecting in emotionally, connecting in a way that bypasses logic and bypasses the ego to say that is my truth right there. I may not have a label for it. I may not make the direct connection that the color red means passion or the color blue means clarity or whatever it is, but I feel it. I feel the resonance of me. And that is something that I'm blessed to get feedback on, that people feel that time and time again, that they will say, that's the first time I've looked at something and recognized me. And they just feel healing embedded in it. They feel activations embedded in it. Sometimes they will see elements or aspect of their spirit team, their guides, loved ones who have crossed over, pets, people. I couldn't draw someone's like grandma if I tried, but I hear time and time again, I saw Uncle whoever in the artwork, or I saw my grandma's face. So somehow everything that we are is encapsulated by all our relationships, all our challenges, all our opportunities, and it somehow comes out and is reflected in this geometric, colorful piece that allows people to feel like, yes, I have been seen. Yes, I know who I am as a soul.
Yeah. And we know now that we're not just these material beings living a material life. We're actually information in the field that condenses itself into matter to perceive itself as what we see as a body. So it makes sense that you're seeing people as literal geometric patterns. And I know you've had a lot of experiences walking people to the veil and helping them transition. So when they let go of the body, what does that process feel like for you when you tune into it?
Odd as it probably sounds, it feels like elation. It is the like uncorking champagne. It is the most unlimited expansion. We don't really even have the words for it. But as a soul is able to walk out of, like you said, the condensed, the compressed physical form. I love our physical form. We're here to learn, we're here to do, we're here to ground in these beautiful frequencies. But when we're able to transcend that and connect back into that unlimited, pure aspect of us, it feels so elated and beautiful and resplendent, and it resounds with all these sounds, and there's so much color and frequency, and it's like the best fireworks show you could ever see. And that's often how, if I am not with someone at their time of transition, but I know it's approaching for them, I will often feel that I'll be woken up from sleep, or I'll be going about my day and just have this feeling of, we've got her. She's there. There's just this unmistakable signature of relief and release and joy and jubilation. And it is just such a remarkable celebration for a soul to look back and be able to say, I did that human life. And I feel like now I can stretch out a little bit like Robin Williams in Aladdin as the genie, when he comes out of the bottle and he's just like large and in charge.
Liberated.
Yes, that's the perfect word. Exactly. And it just so healing and so pure and so large and beautiful.
Now the question is, can we feel elated and liberated while we're in these bodies?
I think so. I think there are a few different paths to that. I would say, to the extent we can, I like to say sitting in the stillness of self, which for some people may look like meditation. For some people, it may look like healing work that they're doing. For some people, that might be psychedelics, whatever it is, where you can disjoint the ego from the spiritual side, kind of unlock it, untether it, uncouple it. I think we can, through practice and discipline and dedication, reach higher states where we feel that expansion, where we feel that connection, where we feel that unlimited self. I don't know if it is ever 100% the same as when we transition fully, because we still always have this anchor of the physical body. We still have the tether to it. But you ask someone who's had a near-death experience or someone who has journeyed, done an ayahuasca ceremony, a shamanic journey, there are absolutely unlimited and potent states of consciousness that we can reach. And I think where we're headed as part of our evolution and journey as humanity is to experience more of that and bring it back and anchor it in to this heavier, more compressed existence, because that's our natural state of being, as well as rooting it. So rising in a rooted way where we can increase our capacity to hold those expanded states. I kind of see it too, like learning to scuba dive or free diving. You can hold your breath for so long, but the more you practice that, the more air you can hold. So the more you practice accessing those higher states, the more you're able to anchor them in and hold them and have them just be part of your normal, I'm going to the grocery store to get something and I'm so blissful and I'm in this beautiful state of awareness and everyone's amazing. You can hold that out in the real world or the compressed world of the third dimension. And I think that's what a lot of us are tasked with doing, joyfully tasked with doing, is bringing that in to be an example for others who can then access those states and have those awarenesses.
You were in a deep meditation once and you saw unlimited versions of you, and you sort of saw it as like these, it was like vertical parallel versions living in different timelines. And you had the understanding that those could be brought interconnected and that they were all related to each other. Tell us a little bit more about that experience that you had.
It was very unexpected. I didn't seek to find that out in meditation, which is often when you're onto the most amazing and unlimited experiences is when you didn't go fish for them. They just kind of descend upon you. And I've since come to kind of think of it or picture it as someone having their own personal eclipse where the sun and the moon line up. So those different timelines, those different aspects of me, those lifetimes were all in alignment with each other. And it's like through that, there was a beautiful channel through which everything was connected. Almost like I'm seeing it now, like the spinal column. And each lifetime, was a piece of that spinal column going up, but all still connected in this flow of energy. So I was able to, another way to visualize it is like being in a hotel room or a hotel and going up the elevator. So there was, 11th floor Heather and there was 7th floor Heather, and not that higher was better. It was just a different experience and different lessons and all of that, but all still encapsulated in the same building of the hotel. And so being able to, in that moment, and these experiences never last as long as you really want them to, but in that moment, I was able to have kind of these downloads that I still haven't fully worked through what all of that was, but it was this beautiful alignment of saying everything that you're working on now, every lesson that you learned, the way you were in childhood here relates to how you were in this other timeline, and that it isn't past lives as we tend to explain them, that they happened in some other period of time. It's all in the now, which I know you know. And almost like, can you connect into that and tease out a little bit of some ingredient of you that you can use in this time? But there was a reciprocity to it. There was this feeling of, okay, if I borrow something from this timeline I'm witnessing here, what can I give her back in exchange? So the lessons are reciprocal and it's all fluid, and it's really challenging to explain because it was all moving really, really quickly. But it was more this knowingness of, number one, wow, there's a lot of me's out there right now. I hope we're all having a great time, living our best lives. And can I come back to this moment when I need to again? But also just this, oh my goodness, this is so much bigger than I ever experienced. And it's not just me. I just was able to witness it specific to me. And I think activations and downloads and healings happen when you get in that kind of channel of self, for lack of a better phrase, because you are accessing so many different levels of wisdom and experience and love and healing, and seeing all the bits of your journey. And it's helpful to see where you are now. Sometimes we feel, okay, I've got this span of, let's say, 100 years as a human life. Can I get it all done? Can I fit it all in? Did I miss time? I hear that a lot from the people I work with. People will say, I'm in my 70s and I feel like it's too late for me to get started on anything spiritual, or it's too late for me to find my purpose or connect in anything. And that's never the case. The timing is never coincidental. You're getting that nudge at just the right time. But seeing how we're connected to all these different iterations of self, the timing is not just this one linear time either. And all of that affects and impacts one another as we're called into elevating what we see in the here and now.
Were all of these lifetimes that you saw human related? Or because I know your connection with the animal realm, I know your connection with the galactic realm. What else did you see apart from just the human on Earth lifetimes?
That's a great question. There were some tree lifetimes. Because it's interesting because I love trees. I connect to trees. I will talk to trees often. And it was almost as if, hey, by the way, you've been one of us before. There were ancient galactic timelines. So human based, as in they were here on Earth, but the galactic presence on Earth in what we would view as a past time. There were, what animals did I see? Oh, a horse lifetime that was amazing, because like, picture wild Mustang just running, no need to be bound by anything, and just that sense of expansion and freedom and joy in that. There were also some birds of prey, like a hawk lifetime. And I have hawks come around me all the time. Yeah, those are the ones that are coming to mind now. And it's interesting when I'm looking back into that memory. I'm so glad you brought that up. But it's kind of like, the game that we used to have of identifying, I think it was called the match game, where you had like cards that were face down and you would flip one over and try to find its match. The different lifetimes are like flipping over and just showing me a glimpse of a picture. And then I'll see one over here. And it's like those two went together primarily. And then these two. So it's fun to look in and see that. There were also elemental lifetimes, so fairies and things like that. And I think, that's not just me. We all try on all different kinds of existences to learn from them, because what you can learn as a tree is very different from what you would learn as a human. A tree lifetime is growth and patience and being steadfast and being an observer. That's what I learned from that lifetime a lot, was being the sacred observer, because you see things come and go, and you go through your own seasons of change, but it is very static in that way, that you are in one location and witnessing without judging and observing, or witnessing without judging, but just observing. So it was very empowering, very strong, but a sense of surrender in that.
What about the ancient past? What was going on in humanity when you witnessed that lifetime?
That was connected to I'm gonna say it with a slash, an Atlantis / Egyptian timeline. So it was around the transition time toward the end of Atlantis, being a keeper of crystal wisdom and healing. And there's this, I go back to this one a lot more than the others, so I can speak to it a little better. There's this beautiful, almost like a workshop that was a sunken room, that there were steps all the way around, almost in an oval shape, that you could step down into. And once you were in that space, it was like this beautiful spiral pattern and all these different crystals that could be activated to create this channel of light and this sacred room of healing. And I was one of the ones who worked in there, guiding people into that space to connect with that. But there's also this view out, like past the door into what was outside. And it was a little bit of a world of confusion and chaos and reconstruction. And people were coming to this healing room to better deal with the chaos that they were seeing in their daily lives. So it wasn't just ooey gooey blissful healing. It was very purposeful, like almost the feeling of a battlefield where you would have a station where you would patch people up and send them back out. It was this interesting mix of beautiful enlightenment and healing, but also a feeling of something coming to an end. And this was a time of transition. And so the healing was going to be, I don't want to say temporary, but the healing was not a complete fix or a change. There was an aspect of surrender and understanding to what was occurring in the larger scale.
Hello, beautiful family. Quick one today. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription means more than you know. Even though it's free, what you're doing is you're empowering a whole channel to be able to do this every single day and continue showing up in the way that we can with all of our resources on hand. Thank you for contributing to the growth of this channel, for sharing it with the people that you love, for creating a conscious movement of individuals that are seeking the sovereignty and the divinity of their soul. This is why we're here. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, I invite you now to look below on that little button that says subscribe and welcome you properly to this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are and being pure love and radiating that with everyone that you see. Back to the episode. And by sharing these stories, I feel like also what we're doing is reconnecting ourselves back into our multidimensional nature and how eternal the soul really is. So whether it's a tree lifetime, an alien lifetime, an animal lifetime, we can all understand that we're not just this, we're not just this physical being, and it goes far beyond that. And, you started picking up into that realm very early in your life. Like I remember you saying that in the beginning, you were very drawn to the animal kingdom and communicating with animals and the trees and the elements. What did you learn about, the soul and our interconnectedness through those experiences as a child?
I'm going to start at the end of that and circle back to the beginning, because what was more surprising to me was that no one else that I knew, at least, was talking to trees and animals and hearing those messages. And so it was a bit of a harsh awakening for me to understand that not everybody could kind of see and feel and sense that everything is consciousness. Absolutely everything. I remember the road outside my childhood house was being paved. There was some road work to patch something up. And this is going to sound so strange, I could hear the rocks objecting to the fact that they were getting tar put on them. And so as a little kid, I was going out and picking them out of the tar because they didn't want to be there.
The rocks are mad, guys. Let's
Exactly.
Stop for a moment.
Right. Can you imagine? Like, hold up. And so, but just knowing that, everything was aware of everything else. And I think if we could have that consciousness today and that presence of mind to say, I am running out the door because I'm late for work, but just knowing that the animals in your yard are aware of your energetic state. And so they're probably going to fly away because your energy became big and it became spiky and it became angry. And that we all have this field that we're resonating and we're broadcasting our own Wi-Fi signal all the time, and everything around us is aware of it and engaged with it. And conversely, we can receive the transmissions of all those other beings in the world. But I think I the way I look back at it now, it seems like kind of a magical little childhood to just go around and talk to my plants. And there was one tree that I sat under to read, and it wasn't like a big oak tree. It was a pine tree where I had to kind of like dive in under to be fully surrounded. And it was like one of my best friends as a kid because it let me sit there and learn and laugh and play. And I think there's a part of me as an adult that yearns to reconnect to that. I do. I'm blessed to do that through a lot of my work. But there's such an activation in that because, like you were saying about witnessing all the other lives and dimensions, when you just witness how much here is alive and connected and online with us, that's absolutely unlimited as well. And such a beautiful way to experience life and such a beautiful way to experience connection.
And bringing it back to the elements, we are a conglomeration of the elements that make up this physical reality. There's a song that I really love that says that water is my blood, air is my breath, earth is my body, and fire is my spirit. And I brought up fire last because as we're seeing right now in the world with the wildfires that are going on in California, especially in LA, tens of thousands of acres being taken by these fires, I would love to dig deeper into of this greater purpose behind, if the fire is our spirit, what is that telling us about renewal and what is really going on behind the scenes with these natural events or these events?
Yeah, what a powerful question. I think I want to also link into, because it's coming to mind, a few months ago on the East Coast where there was Hurricane Helene and tremendous damage from water. So to me, that looks like a different picture. It looks like two separate activations, water being the emotional body, water connecting us, being fluid, going with the flow. But there was tremendous devastation from that as well. And now fire being renewal in that way. Those, if you know about like controlled burns in forest fires, not that this is that, but what that allows is for the new growth to come through, for the new seedlings to be rooted, for everything to grow and thrive in a more healthy, stable environment. So I think with both of those events, with the water-based, the hurricanes, and with the fires that we're seeing now, there is that prompting or that calling to not start again, but use that as almost the sacred fire of creation. Because what else do we do at fires? We sit around fires and we tell stories. We sit around fires and we have safety. We sit around fires and we have warmth. So to what degree can we integrate and alchemize the tragedy that is there and say, collectively, at our spiritual level, this is an uptick. This is a sacred flame that we can hear as our calling to go deeper, to expand more, to soften and surrender. And I would say, again, playing the two kind of together in that way, and the beautiful meditation we listened to before we started talking, in what way can your emotional body be disjointed from the spiritual body? And is that some of what we're seeing as well? And how can we integrate that together? How can we not, because a lot of times in spiritual practice, people will think it's all up here. Like, I'm going to ascend, I'm going to elevate, I'm going to pull out. But if you do that without examining and going to the darker places within yourself, shedding light like a fire, shedding light onto the darker spaces within yourself, you're going to have a very short-lived time in that space and you're not fully integrated. So how can we bring those two together so that the fire and the passion and the spiritual side and our soothing nature, our ability to connect, our ability to, what's coming to mind for me now is wash ourselves clean of our judgments, wash ourselves clean of our misconceptions about our own selves and about reality, and then shed light on where the truth is.
what do you feel the fire is illuminating for humanity right now?
I think it's an opportunity to illuminate connection and rebirth and renewal. And I know from living near where the hurricanes were back in the fall, what we saw come out of that was tremendous, stunning community. And I think we're starting to hear the same stories coming from California, in that we have lived somewhat disconnected from one another. We connect online, we connect through social spaces, but the smaller community of supporting and the smaller community of really nurturing one another, I think in a lot of spaces collectively has been missing. I hear that from a lot of people too. They feel like they're the only one in their particular town or their school or their family that has a spiritual orientation. And so then they kind of isolate. I don't know who to share it with. I don't know who to connect into. I think the fire is illuminating. This is a call, a clarion call for connecting in to those deeper aspects of you, and not, my team of guys were just saying, not allowing the sacred journey of self to go up in smoke without really connecting into your flame.
I felt that. I just got chills as you said that. So I know the truth by the way that it feels. And
Yeah.
last weekend I was watching Wicked, the movie.
Mhm.
And it was very interesting because they depict the story of this magical realm, magical kingdom where before humanity was very tapped into magic. And within that, you know, in the school that they're in, some of the professors are animals, and the animals could speak and they would give their lectures in their classes. And then at some point, due to the oppression and control by the Wizard of Oz, I don't want to be spoiling anything, but the animals start being taken away their ability to speak because they were put into cages. So they forgot that ability. And, you know, that could be a metaphor or not. But as someone that can communicate with animals, how have you perceived that realm in terms of just how connected we are with that kingdom as well?
Absolutely. I think they are some of our most sacred relationships that we have, whether it is a pet companion that you have in your home, or the animals you encounter throughout your day, or just on the collective level. Our animals are here as sacred ambassadors of lessons that often we may not see or choose to see for ourselves. So I want to give an example really early on. I don't know if it's an example, but it's an example of how aware the pets are of what's going on in our lives. So I had a dear friend who had a dog who was going through cancer treatment, and we got through the initial treatment, and scans were clear and everything looked good. And there was celebration and we were happy, and he was very healthy. Went back for a secondary vet visit, and he acted so strangely that he didn't want to go with the vet tech. He didn't want to interact with anybody. And this was a very social dog. And so everything looked off. And at that time, I wasn't really doing animal communication. I had the experiences as a kid. I had kind of brushed it aside, or needed to do more adult things, I guess, in my life. But sitting in the appointment with my friend, clear as if she had said it to me out loud, I heard him say, "The tumor is back and I don't want my mom to know." And we had no idea. There was no reason to suspect this at all. And a couple days later, she got the results back, and that was exactly true. But he didn't, he had not just the awareness of what was going on in his body, but the awareness of the relationship and how that was going to be devastating news for his person. And he didn't want her to know. And so that is the level of awareness that our animals have with us. So when I say they sometimes teach us lessons or show us things that we wouldn't necessarily look for ourselves, often we will. I know the pet owners or parents or whatever, however you want to reference that for yourself out there, will know. You will give your dog, the organic grass-fed steak and you'll eat ramen noodles, right? Like we elevate them a lot of times and give them the like absolute best. So when it comes to them having an injury or an illness, we will spend a lot of time getting to know what is the best healing for them, what is the best environment for them, what modalities we can use. And maybe we've also for 30 years been nurturing a low level of illness in ourselves, but we don't see that until we see it reflected in our pets. Or
because they
even,
absorb a lot of things from our energy
exactly,
fields.
right. They are often cleaners of the environment or natural kind of empaths that are just, sponges to that. But it's also the prompting of saying, okay, I have a pet who has an issue or even a behavior issue that happened. That was my own personal experience. I had a couple of dogs with some challenges behaviorally, and it started me on a journey of really understanding my own energy that I was broadcasting into the space and how to really be the thermostat and just set the tone and set the temperature of a space and be the leader. And that was something I hadn't stepped into at that particular time in my life. And I might not have if I hadn't have had to solve the issues that my pets were experiencing. So in that way, they are really valuable partners for us. And yes, they can also just be the cute little fluff muffins that sit on the couch. That's also like when I communicate with pets and ask them kind of what their job is, if they would describe it, a lot of them are like, I hold down the couch. Like that's my job. I make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Or, I make sure the flies are managed or the bugs are taken care of. So that's perfectly valid too. And they're there for love and companionship. And often the way that we will witness unconditional love from an animal is so different from how we love one another as humans that it's also this other degree and other way to integrate any lesson of love and loss and all of that just through their adorable, cute little faces.
Mm-hmm. Heather, you were open to the idea of me bringing my dog onto the show and introduce her to the audience. How would it work? Like if we were to do like a mini reading for her?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring her in, just tell me her name and let me look at her adorable little face for a little bit. And then I would ask her if she's willing to communicate, which I feel like she is willing to step up to the spotlight for sure. And you can ask different questions of her. How like some common ones are, how are you feeling? Do you like the food that you're eating? What do you think your job is here? And she may answer those. She may go on some other routes as well to bring in information. It is always, I set the intention that it's always, the best and highest and healing information to come through for everyone and for her as well. And some animals are more willing to share things than others, but typically they're all so excited just to have an opportunity to be like, oh, what? You want to talk to me too? Okay. So yeah, whatever questions you have for her, really nothing's off limit. We can just go with the flow.
Beautiful. I'll go get her and I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. Bringing her in.
Look at that. Oh, yes. The microphone looks tasty. Absolutely. And what is her name?
Her name is, what's your name?
Yeah, she should
Her name
tell
is
me, right?
Lupe.
Lupe. Oh, okay. She's such a doll. Lupe would say that she's the boss of your house. That even not necessarily from a leadership perspective, but from a all eyes on me, perspective. And she's so grateful to be spoiled is the word she would probably use for it. Just absolutely loved on, nurtured, taken care of, pampered even in that sense. And one of the things that she's here to do is specifically for you, Emilio, grounding back into a present moment. Because I feel like she has an ability to draw, magnetize energy into her in a way that is I don't know. It just feels like there's this, I don't want to say black hole of energy because that gives a bad connotation, but it's like she soothes, she calms, she brings everything back, but she says she still has a little spice. Like she's not 100% all soft and nice and cuddly, but she's there for like, hey, be here, present right now. Remember, do this. So she's really good at grounding in energy. And especially, I think when you come in and out of these kinds of conversations, she's just showing me like how your energy grows and looks, it looks like these different bubbles and waves of energy. And I think for several minutes, if not a couple hours after a conversation, you're still like vibing in that way. So she likes watching that as well when she's able to witness it. But she said it makes her thirsty. She's like, whoa, that energy. I got to get some water to like, we got to, speaking of, what we do with water and emotion, she's like, I got to calm that down. So yeah, what questions did you have for her?
I had an interesting question because I know that you also connect with the angelic realm, and dogs are very perceptive in that way as well, to see beyond the veil.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if she also sees energies apart from just the humans that surround her.
She absolutely does. And some of that is also, they are riding along those energy bands and waves that you're coming into out of conversation. So different, and I don't know if you have this distinct awareness, but often, because she doesn't say it's just one or two times, often when you're coming out of conversation, you have different activations. You have different, it looks like algebra equations, but we'll say geometry because I don't want to do math. And then some of that is connecting you in to other realms and other beings. And so she's witnessing that with you. Also, I don't know how you, like if you're a dream journeyer or if you astral project or anything, but she says another thing that she witnesses is, it's so cute, sparks of light, like little spirals coming out of you sometimes in a sleeping state. And I feel like if I'm her, I want to like put a paw on you and be like, hey buddy, stay here. Like, in that sense. And then just in general, walking around like the home, you keep it very energetically charged, very energetically clean. I think she sees some elemental energy there, some fairies as well. But you're, I get it. She just said, who's the big guy with the sword? So I'm going to say Archangel Michael is often there, but may not introduce himself to her. She's like,
wow.
That's what I see. And it is she like
the big guy with
floor
the sword.
to ceiling. Yeah. Floor to ceiling, like taken up, because she's a little bit like, why is he taking up so much space in the house? Like it's a really big energy.
What's life like for her when my sister and I are not home?
She said, well, I get to rest a little bit more. It's just a different flavor, a different gear, she's going to say. Yeah, she's like, don't get me wrong, I'm not unloved or I'm not like abandoned or put in a corner or something, but it's not the same. She's going to say level of intense integrative work. She describes what you do together. Does she like to, is she showing me like looking out, not being nosy, but observing like neighbors or other people? So she's very like, not protective in an aggressive way necessarily, but she's very protective and aware of her space, her people, her family. And then it's like us and then the others. And sometimes the others don't meet her expectation, we might say, or they don't behave in a way that, makes her feel super comfortable. So to answer your question, she would also tell you that she knows where you are when you're not home, and she's connected into you, whether you're physically there or not. So word of caution there would be, or not caution, but you can check in with her mentally and say, whatever, tell her good night, tell her good morning, send her love throughout the day, because she's aware of not like the details of what you're doing, but your energetic state. And so I think one of the first things she does when you do come back home is to kind of run like, I would call it a cat scan if she were a cat, but we'll call it a dog scan, like running your energy and seeing like, where are you, what needs to be worked on. And then she has this beautiful view of, she's a very busy lady. She has this beautiful view of the energy body and like down to the inside, I would say, of a chakra and how it's spinning. And she can she's telling me she smells it. She can sniff it out and say, oh, yeah, that solar plexus chakra, that's a little wonky. I'm going to send frequencies for that. So she's a little healer, not in breed, but in activity in that way.
Have we been together in other lifetimes, or her with this family?
You and she, yes. She likes to come in a bigger body typically, she said. So I feel like there's a lifetime, and I won't get into too many details, but there's a lifetime where she was a jaguar, which is quite a little different from that little cutie fluffy thing. But she says that was too much trouble because she got misrepresented and people were afraid of her. But in that lifetime, there was a sacred medicine task or journey or mission together in that. So that's why she's keyed into healing so much in this lifetime as well. And then with your family, yes, in different ways, I feel that maybe not fully living with or adopted by the family, but the way she's going to explain it is family adjacent. So maybe like a neighborhood dog in different lifetimes, or somebody who's kind of always around. But she wants to take it outside of a physical incarnation and say at the soul level, yes, I know you've heard about soul groups and soul family. She's one of your soul pets. She's always kind of around the combination of your souls in different formations. So she may not choose to come into a physical body for that for a certain lifetime, but she still has the awareness of where you are. She's showing me kind of like holding a balloon and you have the little string. So your lifetimes would be the balloons, and she's always got a hold on them where she can, if she chooses, she says she has like an open pass, kind of at a soul contract level where you and your sister in particular, maybe your parents as well, but she kind of puts them, no disrespect, she kind of puts them over there like as a separate entity or a separate conversation. But you kind of have this soul contract agreement that, hey, if I get really into trouble, or if I'm not on my mission, on my purpose in the way that you see as I'm crafting this lifetime, would you come on in as a pet or an animal and prompt me and nudge me in the right direction? So she has like she's calling it like an open invitation to come into a lifetime, but she doesn't always choose to.
Beautiful. I could feel her getting a little bit wanting to come off. So if we have any last message from Lupe for the audience as well.
Yeah, exactly. She just feels really, really loved energetically. She feels, I don't know if she acts like she's a bigger dog as well, but she feels like I'm in this cute little fluffy body, but why don't you take me seriously? Like there's an element of that sometimes with her, and just so appreciative of getting to connect in that way. And yep, she also would like a treat for her efforts here today.
She'll get that for sure.
Some kind of reward. Yeah. A semi-reward exchange.
Beautiful. Well, look, she's trying to get off now. She
I know,
knows
she's
it's
like,
over.
enough of that. Look out. Oh, cutie pie.
Thank you.
So sweet. Yeah, that was fun. Thank you.
Beautiful.
yeah, she's a sacred little beauty. Very like and I would say wise beyond her years and her appearance, which I always am entertained by. Sometimes it is the tiniest dog, like the Yorkie who's in a purse, or like you would think they're just fluff or almost, I don't want to say accessory dogs in a bad way, but they can be the deepest, wisest ones. And it's almost like they come in under the radar. Like you would never expect some of the things that come out of them because they're just doted on and loved on, and oh, they're so cute. So yeah, she's kind of in that category.
And I totally resonate with what you said about like sometimes I could be very much in my head, and especially because the nature of this work, I do a lot of the work from home. So, I could be very like up here, mental thinking, digesting ideas. And then I go downstairs and then she has like a toy in her mouth and is like, wants to play with me. And I drop everything. I'm like, all right, I'm going to dedicate the next 10, 15 minutes and just like run around the house with her like a kid. And she really taps me into the inner child as well. And in my body too.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. It's like calling those parts of you back home so that you can be fully present. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making space for that and being open to it. There's still a lot more to talk about. I had a few more things to get into, but I know also there is a period in your life and maybe even today where you've received a lot of prophetic dreams, and sometimes being of the nature of car accidents, plane crashes. So there was a moment where you saw these dreams as like purposeless. Like, why am I receiving this information if I can't do anything about it? Now, do you have a different perspective on the reason that you receive those, let's say, quote unquote, bad prophetic visions or dreams?
Yes. I think as I view it now as an adult, I would say it is, and not to downplay witnessing tragedies in dreams or seeing things like car crashes and plane crashes and things like that. But I would say as an adult, I witness it now more as being tapped into the field. And this is just information that I'm receiving right now. As a kid, I felt an obligation to do something with it. I think now I know through many years of witnessing that and stepping into more maturity with it, what I often do with it. If I can't place a call and say, hey, don't get in your car today, or if it's a plane crash, I'm not going to call an airline necessarily and say, oh gosh, here's that. But it's me switching my frequency and tuning in and turning on healing, love, acceptance, putting an energetic bubble around whatever situation it is to help mitigate, soften whatever is going to occur. And that the awareness given to me through the dream was my opportunity to do that, to shift my frequency, to show up in that way. It may not be physically showing up or physically doing something, but using the tools that I have to mitigate, soften, lessen in whatever way I can for that.
Because what I'm receiving now is, if we're in a hologram and the external world is just a reflection of the inner world, then it's almost like these prophetic dreams are being presented to you so that you could remember that you are the master, you are the creator, and avert, any possible timeline that you're receiving that could have like a destructive effect in the external world, and maybe just realizing like, oh, if this is a hologram, then I can still change it.
Yes. And I don't know that I've done it for kind of the big stuff like car crashes and plane crashes, but I did do that work and still do to some extent, but did do that work oddly as a kid, where I would witness things in a dream and step in and be able to change and alter and affect it. But that was my own personal timeline. I think for me, when we look at what you're talking about, that level of changing something in the hologram, I think many minds make quicker work of that or easier work of that. And if a lot of people are tapped in at that level, absolutely change can be affected. So that's an interesting concept and idea in the way of working with it like that, almost like an emergency response team energetically or something, to come in and say, hey guys, we got to switch this up. We got to change something. Because you're right. If you're witnessing something, you have a resonance with it in some way. It's almost like it fell on your plate for a reason. And then what is it that you do with it? So what I choose to do with the bigger stuff is switching the frequency and healing it as much as I can. Don't know that I've been successful in averting anything completely, but then you don't know that that work that you did do didn't soften or didn't lessen it, specifically in the way that it occurred in the physical.
The teaching that I repeat the most, and I don't know how many times I've said this quote on the podcast, but it's from Dr. Joe Dispenza, a brother of mine. And he says, a collective network of observers determines reality. And, you can even see that in, it's not the number of people, but it's the field that they create together. So like two people that are locked in one mission, one purpose, one set goal can outpower 10,000 people that are incoherent and in chaos. So you get an orderly field and you can literally make effects on matter. And the question I had there was, are there any recent dreams that you've had that are relevant to humanity as a whole?
Good question. Dreams, I would say I have seen, it's interesting because we were talking about the fires. I didn't get that specifically, but I was seeing dreams of volcanic eruptions and flame and ash in that context. So what I was tuning into with that specifically, and that was, I don't know, maybe around November, December, when I was receiving that in a dreaming state, it was to step more into the divine flame of creation in that way. I think not necessarily in a dreaming state, but sometimes in my other work, I have seen this. I know a lot of people talk about the flash of light. I never got it quite like that, but I do see what I will call a repatterning. And I love that you brought up coherence in that, because I think that's a part of it, a repatterning in how we show up, how we are with one another, what we say, what we do, dropping into our own personal courage. And I like to break out the word courage, where the front part is your heart, like the French word for heart, courage, dropping into that in everything that we face and everything that we witness. And I think we're going to see such fundamental change across the board in everything. It's the chaos of creation in that way. And it may look very unsettling and it may feel unsteady, but what it is a calling for us to rise up. And like we've said before, rise rooted in our sovereignty, rise rooted in our inspiration and in our creation and in our connection with one another. Because I think the world that we inhabit in 2027, 2028 looks fundamentally different than it does now. And we have these pathways to choose of elevating, to do that in connection and community, or staying a little more stagnant and doing it almost like in a slower, less hospitable, less pleasant way, where it's the slow, it's the 3D, it's the timeline. To go back to Dr. Joe and his work, it's the, matter to matter. That's going to be slow, coming into the coherence and the understanding and the awareness as we're looking at things like institutions changing, governments changing, medical field changing, like everything. There's really nothing off limits of what is going to be disrupted. And I don't want that word to sound scary. Disruption allows for any seed to be planted. When you start to garden in the spring, you till the soil, you disturb all the soil that was overwintering. And I think we're in that phase where we're raking everything up so that the seeds we can plant grow in a new and vital and healthy way. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I haven't seen necessarily specifics. It's just this overall feeling of buckle up because things are coming, but also things are coming because so many of us have done the work. Like we're also why we're coming to this intersection where there's such fundamental change. It's not happening upon us coincidentally. It's happening upon us because it's coherent with where we are right now. It's time for that. It's ripe. We're ready. So coming to it with that awareness and allowing ourselves to step into that courage, I think helps us walk through it in a way that gives ourselves and those around us and the world at large more space and grace to face whatever is coming.
Hmm. And what does your spirit team refer to when they say that we're going to be experiencing a lot of momentum?
Oh, momentum is a couple of things. It's the ability to drop into the moment, kind of like we were doing with Lupe, because we're all here. When we see that chaos and we witness that, we all get in that headspace easily. The power of transmutation, the power of moving things forward, the power of creation is in the present moment. So knowing that we're coming back to that present moment as things are picking up speed, because that's another thing I know many of us have witnessed. It feels like it's one thing after the next, after the next, after the next, and there's this rapid change coming. That pace continues. So that's momentum in it as well. But then we as consciousness, we as co-creators, we as sovereign beings are stepping more into our mastery of that, more into our ability to kind of reattune and revisit who we are as individuals and reconnect to ourselves as well as others. That gives us momentum. So it almost looks like two roads traveling together. There's the momentum of what's happening in the world, getting faster and faster, changing and changing and changing. But then there's us holding this other note. And I'm seeing it now as like a sheet of music. There's the bass line of the world doing what it's doing. We're the top note together. That's the melody and the harmony. And we have the momentum to keep that going in a way that lessens the pain, that increases the amount of love. And I think one of the things that my team has loved to talk about and coach lately is really witnessing the world from the room of your heart. So even just picturing if you lived only in your heart and you didn't witness things from your mind, you didn't witness things from your vision, you didn't hear them, but everything that you witnessed was from this beautiful space of your heart. And they even walked us at one point through a meditation to like decorate the room in your heart. How would it look? Would it be like a little library? Would it be a cozy living room? Would it be a cafe? Where do you feel comfortable? And anytime things press in on you, anytime things look too frightening, too strange, too wonky in the world, go to that space in your heart. And if you were in that space looking out, how would you feel? Because often we'll feel very different when we're in that frequency for ourselves. And so anything that we're coming to, any challenge, any opportunity, any relationship, any conflict coming from that space changes it. It alchemizes it. It broadcasts a different frequency and it allows us to remember, hey, I'm a soul living through this. And like you said, I'm the co-creator of this. I'm in the hologram. I can affect it. I can change it. But we get so swept up sometimes by that momentum of what's around us that we feel spun out and we don't come back to that beautiful, delicious center where all of that power resides.
And why does it seem that now time is like speeding up or getting faster for us?
my guys are just saying, because you know the dance steps now, like you can go faster. Like, you know, when you're I don't know if anybody knows, when you're learning to dance, you do it kind of at half speed. I'm going to do this with the right foot. I'm going to put my arm here. And then as you learn it, you get to tempo. So they're saying we're getting to tempo in that because we are more capable beings. Human Heather wants to be like, well, that kind of seems like a rotten deal because now we have to just keep flailing around at this speed. But it is also moving us toward the speed of an enlightened existence. And that's a frequency shift. Everything is faster at a higher frequency. So if we're just going along at this slow and steady, nothing's happening, nothing's changing, one thing a year seems pretty impactful. We're kind of the chaos pattern or the wave that settles that chaos pattern, because we're at this beautiful frequency where everything is fast, everything is changing. And we can overturn all that is coming through. They're trying to send me another image, but I'm like, I got enough. I've done the dance steps and the waves, and I don't know. So many
all
things.
The metaphors I hear.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's not to, the distinction they want to make is not to think that speed and rapidity and momentum is bad, because it feels like we're going to lose the reins, right? It's just going to be carried away. But it is the powerful wave of creation that we're witnessing. And so to tap into that for yourself and say, also to take that within to your inner journey, where have I let things get out of control? Or where have I not, more correctly, where have I not surrendered control? Where is there an opportunity for me to surrender and say, I don't need to know the answers. I don't need to have control. I don't need to direct it. I need to be resonant with all that I am and stand in my own authenticity. And then I'll be at the right place at the right time every single time. And they also call it authenticity, AWE, being in awe. Just keeping that state of delight and awe and gratitude and all of that.
That's beautiful. And I wanted to ask you as well what your sister's disability taught you about the soul and the journey of the soul.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So my sister, Wendy, was physically handicapped. She had cerebral palsy very profoundly, couldn't move anything in her own body pretty much, and required full-time care. One of the things that I witnessed about that, I'm going to give it two perspectives. So there's the human perspective of a soul having a human experience. What those who knew her and those who took care of her and her family, what we were called into was this deep acceptance of the different and an awareness that, like, the ability to think outside the box. Not everybody is in perfect health. Not everybody can speak their own words. She was also nonverbal. But there's this ability to still connect, almost like we were saying earlier with the animal kingdom and the elements and the trees. Everything is consciousness. And she had she had humor. She had profound insights on things that we telepathically knew. We knew what she wanted. Same with a newborn. They don't speak, and we know what they are asking for. We know what they need in that particular moment. They are so connected and tuned in and tapped in that we forget that as we grow older. But as at a soul's journey and the spiritual aspect, I think often those who choose to come into, we're all kind of badasses for coming in and being human in a compressed physical form. Those who choose a more difficult physical form specifically, but a more difficult life as well, filled with challenges, I kind of see them as like the Navy SEALs of souls. They are at a higher, different kind of more precise mission, because they're not just learning something for their own growth. They're already at a level of mastery. They're coming in to help prompt and teach and connect with others so that they can witness something pretty unique and special and extraordinary in that. So I think it helped me learn that, I guess the good way to say it too is there's not a generic soul experience, that we can kind of dial in at different levels as well. And that in that way, her life was a life of service because she touched so many others who cared for her, who had to learn different ways to take care of a child, to experience love. So just that beautiful shift in perspective, and knowing that also beyond that, not just the souls who come in at a mastery level, but that's what we're all also here for. We're not just here in our own thing, like doing our own journey. We're all here connected to each other. The coworker that's driving you nuts, you may have a soul contract with them because maybe you needed to learn patience, and they said, hey, I'll come be the bad guy. I'll be the one that drives you absolutely crazy, and that will help your soul learn. So there's all these different elements at play of how we really are truly connected at a soul level going through this experience together.
What does mastery mean to you?
What a great question. Mastery to me is an embodiment of the lessons that you've learned through multiple timelines or lifetimes, however you want to explain that, or even within one time-space continuum, and then choosing to alchemize it into service. So almost like having the full cup and saying, I'll pour some out for you. You're sharing it because you are now switching from being the experiencer to being a teacher in it.
When we look upon you mentioned 2026, 2027 being, probably bigger years than what's happening right now, because it's a little bit further ahead in the future. It almost seems like 2025 is like this bridge transitional year for what's coming ahead. So what have you received around specifically 2026, 2027 that you feel we can start creating in the now to be ready for that when it comes?
Different ways of connection. So I think what we're going to see is galactic timelines coming in, different frequencies coming in, that our calling or our nudge for 2025 is to, the way I want to say it is, keep your own side of the street clean. Do your inner work. Keep disciplined in how you are doing whatever it is that you do for self and for growth, because we are going to want to be optimized as much as possible for what's coming, not so that it doesn't hurt us or so that we don't experience it in a negative way, but so that we get to reap all of the benefits of what's coming. So if someone isn't currently sitting in the stillness of self, start developing that practice. If you don't have any kind of way to connect into the darker aspects of yourself and work through your traumas, or at least address them and shift them. It doesn't have to be a protracted dive into all of that, but keeping your own side of the street clean so that you are the best version of you, energetically, emotionally, physically, in relationships, all of it. Because the frequencies that are coming in for 26 and 27 are so high that our body needs to be able to experience them and hold them in a way that allows us to really enjoy it kind of unfettered and carefree in that sense. But also, the team is saying, do it, like that's the sacred work anyway of being human. But that is really coming to the forefront as humanity starts to shift into a better understanding of this connection we've been talking about, the connection with different realms, the connection with different frequencies, with different aspects of yourself. All of that awareness is really stretching us. So in whatever way you can divest yourself from limiting beliefs, from the self-talk that goes on, work through that kind of stuff in 2025. And they're saying it's not like it's going to be a gap year, like an easy year where you're not doing anything, because we're going to see a lot of things coming, more with the shifts and changes and chaos like we talked about, but always going back to self. What within me can be healed today? What within me can be loved today? Coming into the space of self-love, not as an indulgence, but as a practice for becoming a better human.
And we're always supported and guided from other realms as well. So I wanted to ask you what the number 9111 means to you.
Yeah, that was a fun signal. So we talked a little bit about my psychic dreams kind of putting me off of in connecting intuitively or any of that. And I took a little bit of my own gap year, but many years, took a little bit of a break where I said, I don't know what to do with this. It's too much. It makes me not feel normal. Nobody wanted me coming into the classroom and telling them not to cheat on the test because the teacher was going to know, because that's what I saw in a dream. So I was just like, let me just be normal, just be a human for a little bit. And so my guides agreed, and they stepped back for a little bit. And then I had a series of not so great human experiences, not because my guides weren't there like whispering the answers to me, but because I was out of alignment with who I was supposed to be. Part of who I'm supposed to be is this person who talks to disembodied spirits, for whatever that's worth. So once I realized, oh man, I really fumbled the ball on that, wanted to come back into that alignment, wanted to start learning to connect again with these beautiful beings who had already always been a part of my existence. And so I started doing the work that anybody trying to discover that for themselves would do. I was reading the books, I was going to workshops, I was meditating, I was connecting in. And one day I went home to find my answering machine, told me I had a message, but it also said 0. And so I called and heard this really terrifying voice on the voicemail that said, for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Psalm 91:11. That's all the voice said. It wasn't your typical like, hey, it's Bob, leave me a message, I'll call you back. It was just that. And it was this horrifying or like really unsteady kind of voice. And I called it back and got the same message again over a period of days. I kept calling, would get the same message. I would have my friends call and the phone would just ring. They would never get the message. So I thought, okay, that it's for me. Apparently something's clicking in for me. So over the course of many weeks after that, I would see 91:11, which was that specific psalm that was quoted about angels being your guides, protecting you, looking after you, being on board with you. I would see that over and over and over in any unexpected place. It would be the number on a receipt that I would get. It would be a page that a book would fall open to. I even had somebody found me a bracelet with 91:11 on it. It was just like everywhere, to the point where I was like, okay, I get it already. Enough. You're back. You're here. Hello. Let's get to work. So for me, it is the clicking back in of my connection, but also the reassurance that, like you said, yes, we are always supported. We are always guided. Help is always there. Even if you don't physically hear it, there are the signs and the things that you can tap into in your inner knowing that let you know that you're not in here alone. You have your beautiful guides, your connections, and your higher self as well on board to witness you, to help you, to assist.
Yeah, if you continue that passage, and what a beautiful story, it says, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways, for he will order his angels to protect you wherever you go. So that's a powerful psalm right there.
Yeah. So beautiful. I love it. Yep.
And Heather, we end every show with a segment called the final trio, which are just little questions that we ask at the end. But before that, I would love to send people your way to connect with you and your work, your beautiful art. We might put one of mine on the screen so they can see the image that you created. Where would you send people to connect with you further?
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Emilio. So the best way to reach me is my website, heathermays.com. And it has links to all my socials out there, as well as information about my art or any other ways that we can connect pets and people both. So
bring your own little Lupes to Heather and get your questions answered. I'm going to have to go give her a treat after this.
Yes, I feel like she won't let you forget for sure.
And for the final trio, the first two questions are personalized to the guest, and the last one we ask at the end of every show. The first one, I think, really ties together all that we've been talking about, because it's, in a few words, what is consciousness?
Consciousness is the sacred expression of your unique signature in the field that we all share together as not just humans, but unlimited beings. So it's the team is going to say it's your spark within the flame of creation.
Your spark within the flame of creation. Beautiful. I think your dog also wants to say something.
He's like, you talk to that other dog. Come on.
The second question I have is, what would help people remember the beauty of their soul the most?
I'm going to go back to sitting in the sacred stillness of self. Sometimes we are so afraid of quieting our mind and being really still, because I don't think it's that we're afraid of the dark that we'll find. We're kind of attuned to battling those thoughts for ourselves a lot of time. But often we're afraid to unlock our potential because it's the unknown. It's what could I be? How great could it be? I don't know. Then what would be required of me? So I think being able to tap in to your sacred self and your soul is finding that balance and getting to know what it is that frightens you about you, and then surrendering and softening to it and loving yourself through it.
I'd also love to leave a little practical piece, which is, I know that, you have a daily ritual that involves like a mini life review and looking into the future. If you would like to share that as well, so people can take that home and practice that. It's a beautiful ritual. So I would love to open that.
Thank you. Yeah. So this was something I experienced as a child in my dreaming state, but have now kind of activated to do it awake as well in meditation or in contemplation, really. And for me, it takes on the metaphor or the image of watching your day back as if it were a movie. And as a kid, I would truly be sitting like in what looked like a movie theater, and I would see what had happened during the day. And then I could choose to pause, step in, and rewrite something. So similar to what we were saying about rewriting things as the hologram, it was me stepping into that. But as I would step into it as the actor in the scene instead of the observer, that shifted the perspective. So in any way that you can envision that for yourself on a daily basis, walking through your life as the observer of it gives you a different perspective to be able to say, oh, that person, that they said that hateful thing to me, or that person cut me off in traffic. Pull back your perspective to watch that as a movie, not as it's happening to you, but with you in the scene as well. And it gives you the awareness and the perspective of everybody being on their own journey and how you were impacting their day, they were impacting your day. And it gives you this sense of surrender and release and understanding in a way that lets you soften. And then I also kind of bathe it, just visualize bathing the whole day in gratitude. Whatever it was, thank you for the lessons that I learned through it. And I know that leaves me more prepared to be a better version of me tomorrow. And then just this finding space within your day. It's also helpful to journal it sometimes if you want to do that. But I kind of just do it visually now because it's a little faster for me.
Reflection is self-refinement at its finest. It's almost like, we are in the hologram, but if we never take the time to look at the game piece below us and see how this game board could have been better, maybe a little bit here, or I could have maybe said this the different way, then we're not actively in the process of refining the soul and the lessons that the soul was here to learn. And that's why all these ancient mystics are so big on contemplation or reflection, journaling, going into a cave and meditating and reflecting on life. So that's a beautiful practice for people, and definitely something that I'll be integrating even more of in my life. The last question that we ask is, we call it the time capsule question. And it requires us to travel a little bit out into the future, around 15 to 20 years down the line. And the reason I chose out those time frames is because I believe that's going to be a time when the current young generations will be stepping into leadership positions around the world. And just like any great leader throughout history, they had great mentors, great resources, great tools, great teachings, a great environment for them to have a formula to be the best leader that they can be. So you are given the opportunity to leave behind a time capsule for when the time comes for them to be the leaders of the future. what would you leave behind in a time capsule? And it doesn't have to be anything necessarily physical. It could be a frequency, even like a book or anything that your mind can conceive of, but knowing that in 20 years down the line, they'll open this time capsule from you and be better equipped to be the leaders of the new earth. What would you include?
Yeah, I got a couple of things, but the first is I'm going to leave them the compendium of your podcast.
all the episodes, show notes, everything.
10,000, however many there will be by that point. Yep, exactly.
There'll be a lot.
But we'll be at a frequency where, like you said, with the show notes or the transcripts, they can just, download it. Like it'll all be there. But there will be such a broad, expansive exploration and discussion with that. And then I think the other thing I would leave them is a couple of ways to say, touching on what you said about reflection too. A mirror, but a mirror that says, where is your love? So a prompt for them to say, in anything that I'm doing that is leading others, that is being an example for others, where's the thread of the love in it? Because that is, I think, what we're stepping into from our leadership going forward in that timeline. Showing up in a way that empowers and emboldens others, you have to love them first. And to love them, you have to love yourself first. So centering into that concept of, where is your love today? Is my mind off somewhere else because I'm upset about something? Do I feel negative self-talk for myself? And then that's going to put me off, but always coming back to that center of, I am loved, I am held, I am safe, I am known, and I am witnessed. And letting them see that in a mirror before they step into connection or conversation or leadership with anyone else.
That's beautiful. And what's more interesting is that life itself is already the mirror. So we're already getting that. And if we can just shift the mindset and asking those questions, where is my love at? And at this moment, what does love feel like? It'll just give us a better reflection of who we truly are. So Heather, what a beautiful transmission, sacred ceremony that we put together here. I appreciate you wholeheartedly for stepping into your courage and your authenticity and sharing your light with the world. It's truly a gift and an honor, and I can't wait to continue our conversation and do this again.
Absolutely. That would be such a joy and a delight. And thank you, Emilio, for allowing me to show up in this space and connect with your family as well through Lupe. That was beautiful. So thank you
my
so
mom
much,
was
my
actually
friend.
right here when she came on. So
oh, fun.
Not anymore.
I love that.
She helped me bring Lupe into the spotlight.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Until next time.